Oh, that was the game last night. It was a little bit physical for the first 15. Um, I thought both teams were intelligent about when they were looking for a hit. I didn't. People weren't covering an awful lot of ice to do it. There wasn't a point to the hits. They were just hitting because the play demanded it. I thought it was pretty smartly played in that. Um, then that would be what it is. Don't cover ice that you shouldn't to make a point hit. You're trying to play the game and finish checks. But after the first rush of hits, it was pretty clean game.
Coach Barkey obviously had a great game last night, especially when you have last change. How much of a luxury is it when you have a guy like that where you can just say, this opposing line, I don't like him, put Barkey on it,
Yeah,
and not anymore.
it's a really interesting question because the matchups kind of flipped back and forth through the game. Um, I would say this: it doesn't matter. So you've got Sorelli and you've got Point and you got Barkov and you got Bennett. The match isn't going to be the deciding factor. They're just too good. Those top two lines on both teams are just too strong, world-class players, great shooters, an incredible amount of speed. It's not the match, it's the player's performance.
Coach, you talked about Cooley a little bit yesterday with what you did in game one.
Yeah.
With him and OEL, once the two of them became a pair, once act like a monster.
Yeah.
What did you like about what the two of them have been able to do together?
They really play within their own game. Veteran defensemen don't try to do all things. They don't try to be all things. So I thought Dimitri was very effective. Simple moving the puck, physicality certainly early in the game with the big hit, and then penalty killing important. And OEL gets across that line. He's one of the best I've ever seen at getting across the line and sifting something through, getting something to the net. His exits, and because they're predictable in their play, they're predictable for each other, and they're both smart guys. They can learn how to play off each other.
In the second period there, you guys had that big penalty kill where you guys didn't really give the Lightning that much. I mean, what do you guys have to do right like you did there to kind of slow down that Tampa power play?
Yeah, I don't do the penalty kill. Don't take many would be my advice, because you're not. I mean, they're just so dynamic. It's a function of incredible players, but they've played together for so long. They're just reacting not just on what they see, they're reacting on their history of things they've done, they've had success with. So they have so many options every time each one touches the puck. I think they're the best team at fakes, at the shot fake, where you bite on the shot and it goes back into the seam or it goes back over across the top. They're so good at it. So it's going to be shot lanes and goaltending, and then be as aggressive as we possibly can in the times that we can be aggressive. They're the first one. There really wasn't a place to be aggressive early because they had kind of complete control of it, and we sat in there. And it's not where we want to do, but that's what you got to do when they got control of that puck.
Paul, I wanted to ask you about Sam Reinhart, other than having a bad attitude.
Yes.
How does, for somebody who never played, I'm sorry, but how does one become a vet? I mean, he scored 20 or 30 basically every year he'd been in the league. Now he's flirting with 60 when you add in playoffs. How does one become a better goal scorer? I mean, I get some of it's right place, right time, but how do you make this jump from a 30 guy to a guy flirting with 60?
Oh. So if I answer that question, I make it sound like I know. Because what kind of business could you run as a consultant if you could take a guy from 20 to 50? You wouldn't be coaching. You'd have a little small rink somewhere, and what would you charge for that? Because the guy who scores 55 is going to get paid, right? Okay, I think you have to be the kind of person, first of all, that has the capacity to improve. So you work very, very hard at the small things that make a player better, a little quicker, a little faster. And then you are the benefactor of the people that you play with as well. And Barkov has had an incredible year for us. And it will always be quietly, because that's his personality. Nobody's really going to notice, but he's faster. The seam play to Verhaeghe, Reinhart's been the recipient of those kind of passes. Right? So the people around you. And then, God, the greatest question of all is not such goal scoring, it's confidence. How do you give a guy confidence, right? It's the great coaching question. Make him feel good about his game, maybe when he's not. But he should have, right? I don't think he was ever lacking in confidence because his play dictated that he should be a confident player. I think he's just worked his butt off his whole career, and a whole bunch of things came together, won him And then he and Barkov. Like for 2 years, you looked at that in training camp and went, it should work, but it didn't. And then this year it did, and those were all the things you saw. It's just the puck's crossing the line now.
Coach, you talked the other day about how Matthew was a much better player this year than he was for you last year. He talked yesterday about his defensive game.
Right.
Talk about his improvement on the defensive end.
Well, he's worked at it. Like, when you look at the first 4 months here, he was involved in just about everything that happened on the ice at both ends. Like, it was very intense kind of introduction to the market. But he had to learn a different style of game. And it's not, every team has its own systems, right? They're not all different, but everybody's got their own package. And he was very willing to do that. And I think he wanted to come here, and he wants to make an impact. He's a caring guy, and he wants to make an impact in the community. And then I think he did that over the course of the year. What coincided well was as his game improved, he got a little more comfortable with the systems, his point production went up. So that would encourage you to keep doing it. But I give him credit because he wasn't scoring at the start of the year. I do think it was a holdover from his injury from the summer that he didn't have to train to be ready. But he did not cheat once to put that, he didn't try to break out of the slump by cheating the game defensively. That was some great leadership with Sam Bennett out of our lineup and those two defensemen out of our lineup. We could not have a guy go rogue on us and try to score and lead the defensive game to the guys behind him. He's a very, very bright man. He can watch video and pick it up. So it was just I think it's just a matter of maturity. He got to the point that he knows we can't win unless he defends. That he does everything. Everybody has to defend. Everybody has to chip in, and he embraced that.
Another one on an individual player for you. I know you watched Verhaeghe before you coached him, watching those playoff games.
Yeah.
He's a pretty unique guy. What do you see from him now? And do you believe in the clutch gene? Does he have it? Because he's been so good in the playoffs.
I do believe, and I can't articulate this, I do believe that some people thrive in certain frequencies of conversation, of relationships, in their life. When you're out of your own frequency, when you're off the right path, you're just not right. But the playoff game is his frequency. I would have watched Tampa, especially, and by proxy, Florida, play the last 3 or 4 years in the playoffs, just about every game very closely, and I didn't know who Carter Verhaeghe was. And I kept seeing that number pop up, and who is this guy? He is a playoff guy because the speed of the game, I gotta use a different word, like the hecticity. It's not my word. I stole that from Ralph Kruger, but I understand what it means. Like it's hectic out there, and there's an intensity to it that he thrives in that. That's where he's at his best. If he could, like, the joke is if we could play 20 on 20, he'd score 100. Right? But that's what he's good at.
You came into this postseason best at 5-on-5 defense. Also, before the regular season, you spoke about how your style of play, you're just not going to stop taking penalties. How huge was that for you guys to limit your time in the box to set the pace of play at 5-on-5?
Yeah, I mean that's a critical piece to this to the SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's the number one power play in the league. If you spend too much time in the box, you're going to have to outscore it. In order to do that, you'd have to open up your game, and then you have no game left. So, discipline. But we also have to play true to our identity. One of the ways you don't take penalties is you don't confront everything on the ice. And if we play that game, well, nobody can play that game and play well. So we do have to stay true to ourselves. I thought we did a good job with it, but I think they do too, right? Like they finished checks that they could get to, but they didn't run around to do it. And I felt the same about our game. There wasn't the kind of explosion of emotion every time a big hit was thrown. Both teams kind of understood it. We've been in those kind of games all year. They've been in the finals 3 times in the last 4 years. They get it. So it was more. It was an intelligent, physical game.
Coach, we just talked to Nicholas Soroka, met him for the first time.
Yeah.
He's a really nice kid. Not going to be a factor in this year's playoffs, but what does it mean for him just to be around and kind of taste this and see how you guys perform, see how the guys spend their time on the ice, off the ice, and just kind of absorb as much as he can to give him kind of maybe a leg up next year?
Well, it's good for the desire, right? You get around here, it's a pretty nice facility, building sold out, ton of energy, South Florida. Why wouldn't you want to play here? he won't see any of the bag skates at training camp. We have to articulate that to him. Hey, it's not like this every day. 20-minute, feel good on the ice, get off. Chef cooks you dinner, you go home. That's not training camp, by the way. But good for him. It builds the desire to want to be a Florida Panther. We've had really good success finding unusual players in different places. We like his range, possibly in the Nikola mold, that he can get across the ice, close gaps, and make plays and skate. He's a young man, still lots to learn about the pro game, but it's good for these guys to kind of do a drive-by and see the way our pros operate.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, then.
Thank you so much.
We're going out this door.